Hey, folks, welcome to InTheMoneyStocks.com's intraday analysis video, brought to you by the creators of proprietary price, pattern, and time methodology. Learn the PPT strategies and profit for life. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at InTheMoneyStocks.com. All right, into the action we go today on this Monday, December 9th, 2013. Couple minutes past 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Markets have been in a tight range on light volume so far today. We have a couple Fed governors speaking today, but so far none of their comments have been overly bullish or bearish in relation to what the market feels about them. So you're not seeing a massive run-up or a massive decline. A little bit of a gap higher today on continued light volume and euphoria from the jobs number on Friday. And that's really where we've stayed. Couple interesting tidbits. Number one, the open came right around this little pink trend line, which happens to be this pivot high right here. Now, that's semi-inconsequential. But what I do think is important is that the market has come very close to taking out the previous 52-week high, all-time high on the SPY, but has not done it. So this is something that I talked to my members about here in the intraday stock chat today and in the research center in the live broadcast that I did for them last night where we, looked at charts and talked about setups and so forth. So the one thing I said to them is watch this high. All right, this high came on the 29th of November. It was the day after Thanksgiving, which was a short trading day. And this high was put in prior to a little bit of reversal. And that reversal put in the short-term top on the market where we dipped down here before rallying back up over the last couple trading days, Friday and today. Now, overall, what we're watching at this high is do we close above it? All right, well, obviously, do we take it out intraday is slightly important, although not majorly important. But the next step is do we close above it and do we confirm above it? If you confirm above it, then essentially, and again, you have to know what confirmation is. It's a proprietary signal. I just taught a webinar this Saturday teaching it as well. But if we confirm above that high, which happens to be 181.75 on a daily chart, then you expect neutral to upside for the rest of the year. Basically, into the end of this year, you should expect neutral to upside. If we stay underneath that level and we don't confirm above it, then you actually could see a little bit of continued choppiness, maybe slight weakness. I wouldn't call it a lot of weakness, just slight choppy weakness out there. Maybe we trade back down towards these lows at some point, which are just not that far lower, 1-2% lower than current levels. All right, now there is a negative case, and I want to show it to you right now. All right, the one thing I want to pass along is, and I talked about this to you guys before, so if you've been watching these videos and staying up to date, you know this level. But the 177.50 is my line in the sand. All right, look at this. Major pivot, major pivot, major pivot, major pivot, and then we broke above it. If at some point we come down and confirm below that major pivot, then I would be bearish on this market. All right, so essentially you have below this trend line right here, bearish with confirmation. Above this high right here, okay, bullish with confirmation into the end of the year. As long as you're in between this level here, all right, this 177.50, I'll draw a line right up, and the high, as long as you're between these levels without confirming outside, you would be in more of a neutral, maybe slightly, profit-taking mode. That would be it. It would be more of a neutral area than anything, all right? So above, bullish with confirmation. In between, neutral. Below, bearish. Very simple to look at this market. All right, so that gives you a sense. Now let's go to the daily chart. The band I continue to talk about has been dead on. Members asked me quite a bit when we break above these upsloping trend lines. And you can see these upsloping trend lines, connecting to these levels, but they go all the way back to 2010, 2011, 2013. When we broke above, a lot of members said, does this mean the markets are going to just continue to skyrocket? And what I said to them is, based on the methodology, based on calculations, based on max move analysis, really above these lines, you have about a 3% band higher that you can go. And you'll stay generally within that 3% band or less. So, interestingly enough, you can see right here we popped, we pulled back. Here we popped up about 2% and we pulled back. Now we're popping up again. Notice how the lines are upsloping, so that band is a little higher each time, each day, but very minorly. So, one thing I would just bring to the attention, I think this is probably the most important point here, is that even if you move higher into the end of the year, you're still going to be kept within about a 3% band. The market just can't get out above that. All right, and I did extensive research on this. I looked at hundreds of charts that had upsloping trend lines at their highs. I looked at all of these factors going back through history, and there were occasional points where these stocks puffed above, but they were usually on stocks that were thinner or in a not a market to say. All right, so here you have a market, the S&P 500. If you look at a small cap, of course it can go parabolic and go ridiculously higher. But when you're talking about a liquid, huge market cap, kind of a Cisco, a Microsoft, a Google, an Apple, stuff like that, it's very hard when you have an upsloping trend line over a long period of time for it to get above by more than 3%. So keep that in the back of your minds. I think that's an important little aspect. All right. Couple other stocks I want to touch on. For the most part, there's a lot of green on my screen today. Apple, speaking of which, is up a little bit today. This stock, again, had a nice move last week, and then towards the end of the last week, it kind of topped out. Now it's bouncing back up. I actually think you have two scenarios here where you can trade it. All right, one is if you pull back to this level right here, that's a buy price. All right, so that if we somehow pulled back into this area, this pivot top, scene of the crime 20 MA, that's your long level on Apple. If you continue up and you pierce 600 even number right up here, this is your short level. All right, right now you're kind of in purgatory. There's no pattern here. There's nothing. It's just kind of a choppy chart. And in that respect, there's nothing to do. But again, short it up here, buy it down here. The rest is just neutral. All right, Amazon is one of the stocks out there that's weaker today. This stock, I believe, has topped out for quite some time. It is making a beautiful bearish pattern. It needs a little bit more time in the oven to cook before I think it's ready for a true short. I'd like to see this towards the end of this month, get into that range. All right, you have this reversal. This gap up I called out, by the way, even in this video. If you go back to that day, I talked about how this was the day on Monday where Amazon, Jeff Bezos had come out on Sunday night on 60 Minutes and talked about these drones delivering packages, and it was all this hype. It was just pure hype. The stock gapped up, and that was it. And what I liked about it, it was on more volume. So anytime you have a surge in volume and a gap up and a reversal, that generally puts in a very significant resistance point or potential top. And right now, it looks very much like that is the way we are seeing it. All right, so top, reversal, downward move second day, inside bar action here. The only way that would be negated is if you, in my opinion, confirmed above this high. If you confirm above that high, then yeah, it could go a little bit higher. But for the most part, that's what I'm looking at in terms of a potential top right around the 400 level on Amazon. And, we'll have to continue to follow it and see how it all plays out. All right. Another stock in motion today, OSIS. Basically, they had some negative news on a TSA contract. The stock got pummeled intraday, although it's had a huge bounce. I mean, this is a $10 bounce off the lows, and I love trades like this, even though, I traded it a little bit and didn't necessarily do that well on it today. Didn't make, much. Actually lost a couple hundred on it. But, anytime you have something like this flushing to this extent, and by the way, if you're a In the Money Stocks member, please do a time count down right here. I mean, it's just so simple right there. And sure enough, beautiful little bounce up. It's actually a $10 bounce, believe it. It's still down 16 on the day, but a beautiful bounce off those lows of the day. All right, so really big move there. After it looks like I believe the news. I didn't read into it much, but I believe they lost a TSA contract, so the stock got pummeled there on panic selling, and just a huge bounce now, $10 bounce off those lows. Couple other stocks in motion. You have financials like JPM up slightly, but really not up much. I mean, JPM, if we go to the intraday, a little bit of a bullish pattern here actually intraday, but it's going sideways for the most part. Nothing much to write home about in my opinion. So keep an eye on it, and we'll go and continue to watch it. But I don't really see much leadership from the financials today. The leadership, honestly, is coming more so from tech and a couple like Dow stocks, Chevron being one of them. Chevron is having a good day, up $1.43. Google's up over $10. Nice move on Google. New all-time highs on that stock. Baidu's up. Apple's up. We talked about that. So a couple good players like that. 3M. Take a look at 3M. 3M's actually flat on the day. This is a stock I'm monitoring. We moved out of our short for a profit down here right around the 50 MA. And we made some nice money, and I moved out on purpose because I expected to bounce off the 50, and that did happen. So it was a great exit in that respect. Now we're watching for the bearish pattern set up off of this down move. Huge top put in, huge wide range bar. Now you're getting your retrace. I would just look for a time count here, and I think you can short 3M again. I think it's a great opportunity. I'd personally like to see it get up to about the 130 level or so, Pierce 130, somewhere in that range. But it absolutely is a positive sign there. Another stock I'm keeping an eye on is Best Buy. Best Buy had this big gap down here, inside bar action. It's starting to fall back down. I'm going to keep an eye on this for a potential short as well. If you look at the larger time frame of Best Buy, this stock has gotten way. I don't care how oversold it was here, which it was, and I think we even went long back then. But at this stage of the game, beautiful bear flag off a high, potential head and shoulder top two right here. I mean, you can see this very, very clearly, right? So if it were to come down a little bit more, here's your neckline. This would be a break point right here for a move to the 200 approximately. So there's some good potential setups out there. Really some good potential setups, and it's just up to us to be patient and wait for them. All right. Another stock to watch here, ATOS. This is a small cap. There's no play on this anymore, but I want to point out the pattern here because I talked about it to members of the intraday stock chat, and some of them played it. And wide range bar, inside bar action into the 20, and look at this move up. Beautiful move up. One other stock that's making that kind of possible setup is this Prosensa. Look at this big the stock was 34 bucks earlier this year. Now it's $4. Fell down, made a little bit of a bottom. Now it went into the 50, making a bullish pattern into the 20. This is on high alert watch. It's not necessarily a thing I'm going to pick up today, but any sort of signs that it's upticking, I think this has a decent potential. What I wouldn't want to see is a confirmation move back below the 20 MA, but even then it's downside limited. I mean, you're only talking about lows. I guess the lows are a fair amount lower, down to $3.50 or so down here, but still on a small cap, that's not horrible, especially with a good solid pattern. So I'm keeping an eye on that one, absolutely. Let me just see if there's anything else on watch here. Let's do just a quick check on IBM. IBM here. IBM's flat on the day, nothing doing there. Caterpillar up $1. Caterpillar's had a nice day, the last few days actually, pushing up. But it's honestly, Caterpillar's stuck in a range. I mean, if you look at Caterpillar, right, look at this. This is a pure and simple range. This would be something that I would just look at and say, all right, well, if it finally breaks one way or the other, maybe we trade it. But aside from that, there's not much there. All right. What other small caps are moving? We made some money on a couple different stocks today. STXS was a nice one. CLNT, I talked about that, edged up. Some Chinese stocks are showing some signs of life. Hi-Ho was a nice mover today, although I didn't catch that one myself. But yeah, I think that's about it for today, folks. So just remember my levels on the spiders and what I said on the S&P, which is the spiders itself. In terms of this intraday chart, I think that's important. Remember the band going from the 177.50 to the 181.75 level. That is what you're watching there. And again, confirmation above bullish. Anything in between, I'd call it more neutral. And then below 177.50 with confirmation is very bearish. That would be a big signal to me if it did get below that. All right, guys, have a great afternoon, great evening. Come join and take the 7-day free trial here at InTheMoneyStocks.com. Take care.